He went back to our childhood home and found, waiting in the basement. My name is Ryan Fletcher. I'm 35, divorced, and I fix old electronics for a living. Nothing exciting about that. But my life changed last November, and now I'm here, telling this story because I can't live with the silence anymore. It started when my brother, Noah, called me after almost 5 years of no contact. We hadn't spoken since our mom died. Long story short, grief does weird things to people. Ryan, he said, voice shaky, I went back to the house, our old house. I don't think I should have. He sounded terrified. I asked why he even went if our childhood home had been abandoned since the fire in 2009. It was condemned, locked up, and the land was supposed to be cleared. Yet somehow it was still standing. I saw someone inside, he whispered. It looked like Dad. Our father died in that fire. We never found his body, but there was no way he survived. Firemen found bone fragments and said he probably collapsed in the basement. I told Noah he was seeing things. Brief trauma meant something, but he insisted begged me to come meet him there. Just bring a flashlight, he said, and whatever you do, don't go in the basement alone. That last part stuck with me. I wish I had listened. We met at the house that same night. The porch was rotted through, windows shattered, the front door hanging by one hinge. I hadn't been back since I was 17. My stomach turned when I stepped inside. It still smelled like smoke and mold. Noah led the way with a handheld lantern. We walked through the living room, the kitchen, and then to the hallway near the basement door. Every step felt heavier. Noah, I said, are you sure you saw someone? He just nodded. He spoke to me, said the same thing he used to say when we were kids. What thing? Noah looked me dead in the eyes. Don't go into the dark unless you're ready to see what's hiding there. The exact phrase our dad said before locking us in the basement as punishment. I got chills. Suddenly, Noah went silent. His light flickered and then died. I turned on my flashlight, but he was already walking down the basement stairs. I called his name, shouted, but he didn't stop. I ran after him. That was the last time I saw him. When I reached the bottom, the basement was empty. No Noah. No sound. Just that awful, suffocating blackness. The walls were covered in carvings, circles, symbols, some looked like eyes, all scratched and with something sharp. And then the door slammed shut behind me. I don't know how long I was trapped in that basement. It felt like hours, but it could have been minutes. The darkness around me was thick, as though it was alive, pressing against my skin, suffocating me. I could barely breathe, my chest tight, my mind racing. I kept calling Noah's name, but there was no response. The silence was louder than any scream. Then something shifted. I heard a faint scraping sound, like nails dragging against the concrete floor. I spun around, my flashlight flickering weakly, casting long, distorted shadows. Ryan. It was Noah's voice, but it sounded wrong, distorted, hollow, as if coming from deeper than the earth. I froze. The voice wasn't my brother's. It couldn't be. It was as if something had stolen his tone, his breath, and twisted it into something unnatural. I called out to him again, but this time, my voice trembled. No, where are you? The scraping grew louder, closer. Something was moving in the dark, something not human. Panic surged through me, and I tried the basement door. It was locked, of course. It was locked. My heart pounded against my ribcage, my hands slick with sweat. I turned back to the shadows, hoping I had somehow imagined it, that I could escape this nightmare. But then I saw it. A figure in the dark, standing still. It was tall, unnaturally so. Its form was vaguely human, but the proportions were all wrong, too long, too thin. It wasn't Noah. Those eyes, I saw them glowing faintly in the dark, wide and unblinking. Ryan, the voice whispered again. This time it was louder, almost inside my head. I stumbled backward, almost tripping over the jagged edge of a broken stone. That's when I noticed something else, the floor. There were fresh footprints, muddy, leading into the deepest part of the basement. They weren't mine. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I couldn't move. I couldn't look away from those eyes. It felt like they were pulling me toward it. I heard Noah's voice again. This time it wasn't just a whisper, it was a shout. Ryan, help me! It wasn't like Noah to beg for help, and yet I couldn't ignore it. I followed the footprints, my flashlight shaking in my hand, casting wild beams of light across the room. The closer I got to the far wall, the more oppressive the air became. My chest tightened, the air almost thickening, like it was trying to drown me. Then I saw it. The wall was covered in old newspaper clippings, photos of Noah and me, of our childhood, of our parents. At first, it made no sense, but as I stepped closer, I realized the images weren't just memories. They were wrong. Faces had been altered, blurred, almost as though someone had been erasing the parts of our lives that didn't fit into their plan. And in the center of the wall, there was a symbol I had seen before. It was our father's mark, the one he used to carve into the furniture when he was angry, the one we'd always thought was just some twisted habit. But now, standing in front of it, I felt an icy chill run down my spine. I realized the truth. It was never a mark of anger. It was a warning. Ryan. I whipped around. The voice was right behind me, and the figure was closer than ever. I don't know how I made it out of the basement at night. The air felt like it was closing in around me, pressing down, suffocating me. Every time I turned to look behind, the shadowed figure seemed to be closer, though I never actually saw it move. When I finally reached the door and yanked it open, the cold air of the night hit me like a slap in the face. But Noah wasn't outside. He wasn't anywhere. I rushed out of the house, my mind racing, my body screaming to get away. But the image of those eyes, the way they glowed in the dark, stayed with me. It felt like they were still watching, even now. I called Noah's phone, but there was no answer. I tried again and again until the phone rang through to voicemail. Panic started to take hold of me as I realized he was gone. I needed to find him. I tried everything to get back inside the house. I called the police, but they wouldn't listen. They said it was an abandoned property and that Noah was probably just messing with me. They didn't believe me. How could they? But I knew what I had seen. That thing, whatever it was, wasn't human. And I knew it had something to do with my brother. I spent the next few days combing through the old house, trying to find any clue that could lead me to Noah. That's when I found the journal. It was hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The leather cover was old and cracked, like it had been there for years. When I opened it, I could barely make sense of the scribbled words inside. But there was one entry that stood out. It was dated the day before the fire. Don't let that out. If it gets out, we're all doomed. The basement isn't what it seems. The thing down there, it's not your father anymore. Don't go looking for it. It will come for you, and it will take what you love most. I froze. The thing wasn't just in the basement. It had been here the whole time. It had been watching us, waiting. I immediately called Noah's phone again, my heart pounding in my chest. This time he picked up. Ryan? He asked, his voice strained. You have to listen to me. Get out of there. Don't come back. It's not too late for you. The line went dead. My hand shook as I dropped the phone, my mind racing with thoughts. What was happening to my brother? Why was he acting like this? I knew then that I couldn't leave this alone. I couldn't just run away. I had to find Noah, even if it meant confronting whatever was hiding in the darkness of that house. But as I turned to leave, I saw something moving in the corner of my eye. A shadow. No, it was more than that. It was a figure. And it was coming toward me. I froze. The figure in the corner of the room stood still for a moment, as though it were sizing me up, deciding whether I was worth its attention. My breath hitched in my throat, my body paralyzed with fear. It wasn't Noah. The form before me was much taller, much more distorted than anything human could be. The eyes, it had the same glowing eyes I saw in the basement, watched me like a predator watching its prey. I couldn't see its face, only the faint outline of a figure that seemed to shift with every movement I made. It was as if the air itself bent around it, making the room feel even colder. I stumbled back, my heart hammering in my chest. I couldn't understand how this thing was here, how it was standing before me, how it seemed to know exactly who I was. I needed to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then I heard a whisper. Ryan. It was Noah's voice again. This time it wasn't distorted. It sounded like my brother, except it wasn't coming from the figure. It was coming from behind me. I spun around, my pulse racing. Noah stood there, but he didn't look like himself. His face was gaunt, pale, eyes wide, as if he had seen something worse than death. He was trembling, his clothes torn, his hand shaking. Don't listen to it, he whispered, his voice barely audible. It's not me anymore. I reached for him, but before I could get close, the figure in the corner moved again. Slowly, deliberately, it stepped forward, its presence suffocating, its eyes burning brighter with every step. Noah looked at me, his eyes filled with terror. Get out of here, Ryan. Don't let it take you, he said, his voice cracking. Before I could react, the figure lunged. It was faster than anything should have been. I barely had time to react as it reached out, its long fingers stretching toward me, its foam distorting as it got closer. I screamed and dove for the door, but it slammed shut with a deafening crash, trapping me inside. The room felt like it was closing in on me, the walls bending, the air thick with the scent of smoke. I turned back to Noah, who was now gone, his place replaced by the thing that had been stalking us all along. Not. I screamed, but the creature just stood there, silent. Its eyes locked onto mine, and I knew, without a doubt, that it was waiting for me to make the next move. I couldn't stay here. I couldn't let it take me. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't open the door. I couldn't escape. It was as if the house itself was holding me captive. And then I heard the voice again, this time coming from all around me. You should have stayed away, it said, low and guttural. Now there's no way out. It was then that I understood the truth. I had been lured here. The house, the figure, no, they had all been pulling me back, drawing me into this nightmare. The entity wasn't just after Noah, it was after both of us. And there was no way to escape. Ryan is trapped in a nightmare with no escape. But what if the entity isn't after just him? I felt the weight of the air press down on me, thick and heavy, as if the entire house was closing in. The walls seemed to pulse, breathing with a life of their own. The temperature dropped so quickly that I could see my breath in the dark. My chest tightened as I realized the door wasn't just locked, it was sealed. It was as if the house had become a living thing, its foundations binding the inside. I turned to face the entity that stood in front of me. Its glowing eyes never wavered, never blinked. It was like a living shadow, but its presence was undeniable, suffocating. I heard Noah's voice again, but this time it wasn't behind me. It was inside my mind, whispering in a twisted, distorted tone. Ryan, you should have listened. I gripped the sides of my head, trying to block out the voice, but it was all around me now. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't stop hearing it. Why don't you understand? The voice continued, growing louder. The house is ours now. It always has been. Your father made the deal. Your family sealed your fate. A chill shot through me. My father had always been a strange man, obsessed with the house, obsessed with the land. He used to talk about things I couldn't understand, about debts and deals, things that he refused to explain to us. But I never thought it was this. I never thought it was this monstrous. The figure stepped closer, its movement slow, deliberate. The air thickened around me, a force pulling at my limbs, making it harder to breathe. I felt my skin tighten, my eyes growing heavy. No, I gasped, stumbling backward. No, you lying. But it wasn't lying. It couldn't have been. The walls around me seemed to vibrate with a low hum, a sound that made my teeth ache. And then I saw it, something that made my blood run cold. A painting on the wall. It was small, old, framed with dark wood. I had never seen it before. It depicted a family in my family. But there was something off about it. My father was there, standing next to a woman who wasn't my mother. It was the same figure that had been haunting me, the one in the shadows. The woman was smiling, her eyes glowing just like the figures. And next to her, in the corner, was Noah, only his face was pale, almost ghostly. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't alive. Your father didn't just sell his soul, the entity hissed. He gave you too, he gave all of you. I turned away from the painting, panic surging through me. But the voice continued, relentless. You've always been part of this, Ryan. You're here because you have no choice. It was then that I realized the truth. The house wasn't just a building. It was a prison. A prison that my father had locked us into, bound us to. And now, the entity, this thing, was collecting its debts. It had come for us. And there was nowhere to run. I felt my legs give way beneath me as the weight of everything crashed down. The house, the entity, the truth, they were all intertwined, and I was trapped in the center. I couldn't fight it. I couldn't escape it. But I wasn't alone. Noah was here. Somewhere. I had to find him. Ryan's realization comes too late. The truth of his family's curse has been waiting all along. But can he save Noah? I staggered to my feet, my body trembling, but my mind was clear now, clearer than it had ever been. The weight of what I had learned crashed into me, but there was no time to process it. I had no choice but to act. I couldn't just give in, not yet. I had to find Noah. I had to end this. The entity watched me with his cold, burning eyes. It didn't need to speak anymore. Its presence was enough to communicate everything. It had all the time in the world. I had none. I turned away from it, looking around the room for any sign of Noah. The basement, the symbols, the journal, all of it was connected, but I didn't know how. What I didn't know was that the house had a hold on us, on everything we were, everything we loved. It had been waiting for us to come back. I rushed through the house, my footsteps echoing in the empty halls, but the deeper I went, the more distorted the house became. The walls stretched, the floors groaned, the lights flickered as though something was trying to reach out from within the house itself. It was as if the very structure was alive, feeding off my fear, pushing me to give up. I finally reached the basement door again. This time, it wasn't locked. It swung open easily, as if it was inviting me in. I stepped into the darkness, my flashlight flickering on, casting brief beams of light across the familiar yet unfamiliar surroundings. The symbols were everywhere now, on the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It felt like the very air was coated in them. And there, in the center of the room, was Noah. He was standing still, facing the far wall. His back was to me, his shoulders slumped. He didn't turn when I called his name. No? My voice was barely a whisper, hoarse from everything I'd been through. But there was no answer. I approached him slowly, my pulse racing. The closer I got, the more I realized something was off. His movements were stiff, unnatural, as though he wasn't truly there. The closer I came, the more I saw the marks on his skin, etched deep into his flesh, glowing faintly like the symbols on the walls. "No!" I shouted, shaking his shoulders. But he didn't respond. His eyes remained blank, vacant. The entity was here. It had taken him. Ryan. Noah's voice came from behind me, faint but clear. I spun around, my heart leaping in my chest. He was standing behind me now, his eyes wide and filled with terror. "Don't let it take you too," he whispered, his voice shaking. I looked at him, the confusion, the fear overwhelming me. What's happening? No, you have to fight it. He shook his head. It's too late, Ryan. It's in me, in all of us. There's only one way out. You have to make a choice. I felt the weight of his words like a physical blow. There was no way out. There never had been. No's body collapsed into the shadows, vanishing into the dark. And then I saw the symbol on the floor, glowing brightly, a circle surrounded by sharp lines. It pulsed with energy, as if it were alive. You know what you must do, the voice of the entity rumbled from the shadows. It's your choice now. Ryan's final choice will decide everything. But will he make it in time? The entity's grip tightens. I stood there, frozen in place, the symbol on the floor glowing like an open wound. It pulled me in, drew me closer, as though it were calling me. The walls around me seemed to close in, vibrating with a sinister hum. I could feel the entity watching me, its presence suffocating, a silent, oppressive weight pressing on my chest. The air was thick with the smell of decay, like something old and rotten was festering beneath the floorboards. Noah's voice echoed in my mind. You have to make a choice. But what choice was there? I had seen what had happened to him, what had happened to my father. The house, the curse, the entity, it was all the same. It had always been this way, and now it was my turn. My blood, my soul. My family had made this deal, this pact with something evil, something ancient. And now it was time for the last one to pay. I stumbled forward, my hands shaking as I reached out to touch the glowing symbol. The moment my fingers brushed it, a searing pain shot through my body, making me gasp in agony. It was as though the symbol was draining my very essence, pulling the life from me. My vision blurred, the room spinning. Here, too late, the entity's voice boomed, now all around me, echoing like 1,000 whispers. It was everywhere, in my mind, in my blood. I could feel it crawling beneath my skin, scratching at my bones. The deal is already done. Your family's debt has been paid. You are the last. No! I gasped, fighting the pain, trying to push through the fog clouding my mind. But it was hopeless. The house was consuming me. The entity was consuming me. I fell to my knees, my hands trembling as I gripped the floor, trying to steady myself. And then something strange happened. The glow of the symbol began to fade. The oppressive weight in the air lifted, just a little. I looked up, and for the first time, I saw the entity clearly. It wasn't just a figure in the shadows, it was a mass of dark energy, shifting and swirling, taking shape, and yet not taking shape. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light, but they were different now. They weren't watching me, they were watching the symbol. I understood then. The entity wasn't after me, not really. It wasn't about me at all. It was about the house. The curse. The deal that my father had made all those years ago. And I had the power to break it. With all the strength I had left, I reached out and grabbed the symbol in both hands, pressing my palms into its glowing surface. The pain intensified, but I didn't let go. My father had made the deal. My family had been bound to it. But I could end it. I could break it. I could set us all free. The house shook violently, the walls cracking, the floor buckling beneath me. The entity screamed, a sound that was not human, not even alive, and the house seemed to roar in protest. With one final push, I tore the symbol from the floor, and everything went black. I woke up in my bed. The sunlight filtered through the window, warm and comforting. For a moment, I thought it was all a dream, a nightmare. But then I remembered the house, the entity, Noor. It hadn't been a dream. I don't know if I'm free or if I've only traded one nightmare for another. But I know one thing, the house is gone. The curse is broken. And whatever was chasing me is finally gone too. Or at least that's what I tell myself. Ryan's journey is over, but was it really? The house is gone, but the truth still lingers. Thank you for following along.